The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Hi Rogers, can I ask you something?
Shoot.
What does corruption mean?
Well, summarily, corruption is abuse of public power for personal gain or for the benefit of a group to which one owes allegiance. For example, when a public office is abused by an official accepting or soliciting a bribe. By the way, private people can be corrupt too, like bribing police officers to escape fines.
Okay. So exactly how does that concern me?
Well, do you pay taxes?
I guess, yeah. What does that have to do with this?
Everything. Because those taxes you pay are supposed to facilitate services you use, like water, electricity, roads construction, medicines in hospitals, name it.
Okay, that is much bigger than I thought. But it can be stopped, right?
Well, yes it can, although it may not be as easy as it sounds. And here is the reason why. Corruption roots are grounded in our country's social, political, economic, bureaucratic traditions and policies.
So, what has kept it going this long? I mean, why don't we stop it?
Well, the main reason why it has been here for so long is because institutions are weak, either as a result of poorly defined ethical standards of public service, weak administrative and financial systems, or ineffective watchdog agencies.
What can we do to stop it?
At a national level, we must focus on strengthening the independence and effectiveness of public institutions that fight corruption. At a personal level, we must commit to never giving a bribe.
I promise I'll never give a bribe.
Well, that's a great decision you have made. Me and you now have to spread this message to all our friends. If we all do our part, corruption will be no more.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digital.
Go to the church, though.
Tawali man, what's up?
Man, can you imagine people just dump everywhere? Someone drinks water and throws the bottle wherever.
Come on, Rogers. What else do you expect people to do with an empty bottle?
Simanya now, recorder. Did you know that plastics take at least 450 years to decompose?
What? That's a long time.
Exactly. Because plastics are made out of a lightweight and flexible material that doesn't decompose easily. And plastics everywhere in the environment cause plastic pollution.
What is plastic pollution now?
It is the accumulation of plastic waste in the environment, like bottles, polythene bags, straws. All of these contribute to plastic pollution.
I have been using them without knowing their effect.
Yeah, a lot of people have. Plastics are a danger to the ecosystem, both on land and in water.
So how can we overcome this problem? Is there something we can do?
Oh yes, we can reduce by minimizing the use of plastics, reuse by repurposing them, or recycle by collecting and processing them into new products.
Everyone wants to change the world, but no one wants to change themselves for the world.
How about we change our habits for the world?
And it starts with me and you.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digital. The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Hello and a warm welcome to Digitalk TV. My name is Edgar Matthew Karuhanga on this 23rd day of May 2025. I am at the Electoral Commission offices here in the industrial area in Uganda's capital, Kampala, and I'm going to be hosting Mr. Julius Mucunguzi, the spokesperson and the head of public relations right here at the Electoral Commission. We want to touch base on how the electoral roadmap is going, especially in terms of accountability and in terms of having a free and fair elections. You can be able to just send us a message, query, or any comment through our social media platforms at The Alternative Uganda, but also at Digitalk TV. We are streaming on either platform, that is Facebook and YouTube. Drop your comments. We always want to hear in from you. How do you feel? And any question that you have for Mr. Mucunguzi, we'll be able to pass it on to him as we continue with this program. You're most welcome, and it's a privilege, Mr. Mucunguzi, to have you face the nation this evening.
Thank you very much, Ndugu Karuhanga, for hosting me for the first time on Digitalk TV. It's a pleasure. Yeah. And it's very pleasant to see young people, establishing a platform of this nature,
Yes, sir.
of harnessing technology and digital platforms
Yes.
for informing Ugandans and the public about issues and matters that matter critically to them. And it's my pleasure also to welcome you here at the headquarters of the Electoral Commission on 7th Street Industrial Area. Welcome.
Yeah. It was really a good feeling being here, looking at the entire organization and everything. But also my question is, how are you guys doing, especially as the Electoral Commission? It's a busy year, I would like to imagine.
Yes.
Yeah. How are you as the Electoral Commission?
No, we are very well, and we are very much well seized of the huge task that we have as the Electoral Commission, but also as the people of Uganda.
Yes, sir.
Because the work the Electoral Commission does is not just the work of the institution of the Electoral Commission. We do whatever we do in the service of the people of Uganda, because the people of Uganda, through the Constitution, are the ones that establish the Electoral Commission.
Exactly.
And this year in which we are, 2025, 2026, is the general elections year.
Yes.
And as we speak today, we are rolling. All hands are off. All hands are on the deck in implementing the roadmap to the 2025-2026 general election.
Thank you. Let's first go back to the lessons from Kawempe. We had a by-election this particular year,
Yes.
Kawempe North elections, where we had Elias Nalukola come up victorious. But prior to that incident, there were a lot of issues. Journalists were beaten. Some electoral commission material was vandalized at some polling stations. What are some of the lessons you learned from that experience?
Perhaps before we go into Kawempe, let us anchor the whole idea of elections in the context in which Ugandans and those that are watching this program need to contextualize it. Elections are anchored in the law, and they are anchored in the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda of 1995.
Yes, sir.
The Constitution of 1995 states in Article 1 that all power belongs to the people, who shall exercise their sovereignty in accordance with this Constitution.
Yes.
Clause 4, which is most significant, says that the people shall express their will and consent on who shall govern them and how they should be governed through free, fair elections of their representatives or through the plunder.
Yes.
So that is the anchor of elections and the right to vote.
Exactly.
When that provision of the Constitution is understood, then you go to Article 59 of the Constitution, which talks about the right to vote. And I want Ugandans to know this, because it's important that we have a context. Without context, we may just jump into a Kawempe or another by-election or election without appreciating where we are coming from.
Please go ahead. Go ahead.
So,
Article
Chapter 5 of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, 1995, says, Article 59 says the right to vote, and says, number 1, every citizen of Uganda of 18 years of age and above has a right to vote. So voting is a right. It is not a favor. It's not given to anybody through charity. It is a fundamental right anchored in the law. And it is the duty of every citizen of Uganda of 18 years and age and above to register as a voter for public elections and referenda. So registering voters is also a right. Number 3, the state shall take all necessary steps to ensure that all citizens qualified to vote register and exercise their right to vote.
Yes.
And finally, that Parliament shall make laws to provide for facilitation of citizens with disabilities to register and vote. So the introduction of the Constitution, the right, the power of the people, their sovereignty,
Yes.
and then Article 959 outlining how that sovereignty
exercise.
and in the process, Article 61 then establishes the Electoral Commission.
Yes.
Because it says there shall be an Electoral Commission which shall consist of a chairperson, a deputy, and 5 other members appointed by the president with the approval of parliament. And then now it goes on. So you asked, so I wanted that context to be clear.
Yes.
So the people of Kawempe North were exercising their right to choosing those that lead them, but this was because there had been a death of a member of parliament. So it was a by-election. The law also stipulates how a by-election takes place. And for the case of Kawempe North, Honorable Segirinya died.
Yes.
And as per the provisions of the relevant laws, the commission was under obligation to ensure that the people of Kawempe Division North have representation in parliament. And subsequently, the Electoral Commission rolled out a program for electing a new member of parliament in accordance with the law and with the constitution.
Exactly.
Let's get clear. The process had a series of benchmarks. A stakeholders meeting where all people involved in the Kawempe Division North were called to outline for them how the program was going to go. And after that, we had to update the voters register for those who were going to participate in the Kawempe North by-election. And thereafter, we had the period of nominations. And you will recall that it was after the first day of nominations that a candidate, Narukora in this case, when he had left the premises of the commission, there was a scuffle.
After nomination.
After nomination.
I want you to clearly tell them that after the candidate of NUP was nominated.
After the candidate of NUP was nominated.
Yes, please.
Before the completion of the nomination process. Because look, when a nomination ends, all candidates who have been nominated sit together with the Electoral Commission to agree on a campaign program, to harmonize a program. We had not reached that point. We had first done the first nomination of it was over 2 days. So after nomination, he left the premises, and as he was going, nomination was still taking place at the commission offices in Kawempe. Then we saw in the news and on digital platforms a scuffle that was most unfortunate and most uncalled for. And the commission spoke precisely to the fact that, one, there should be no room, and there is no room for violence of any form in the electoral process. What we saw was uncalled for. There was a journalist, Miracle, who was a victim of that scuffle. And then we continued to complete the nomination process. A program for campaigns was agreed, and the campaigns began. The first day of those campaigns had incidents, again, which were unfortunate. And when that happened, when that incident happened, the commission, the chairperson of the commission, together with all the members of the commission, invited the institution that is responsible for providing security in elections, police, here, in the boardroom up here, and explained to them the guidelines that everybody participating in the electoral process must follow. And among the provisions of those guidelines are ensuring peace and security, and there being no need for any form of violent confrontation. And that they need to follow the law by all actors in the electoral process, the candidates, their supporters, political parties involved, civil society, the media, including the media.
You're talking about the ideal, how it should be, how it should have been.
Yes.
Let's come to the reality of what happened in that period.
So what happened?
In that period?
No, on that day. Because, please, the entire period of the campaign was not characterized by violence. It was only on the first day,
the nomination day,
then the first day of the campaigns, and the last day on polling. In between, there was a peaceful conduct. Of course, politics and the campaigns, there'll be, rallies here, people will be making noise along the streets, but we didn't have any other incident that was of any significant concern until the last day and until the last hours of the polling on the 13th.
Yes. Why does it happen then on such days where there is an event, where there is a nomination? then there is a violence. Then where there is no news, there is no problem. Then on the day of voting, then the violence comes back.
We should.
So can we say, why is this subjective hand there, and why is it happening to certain candidates or certain political parties?
No. That is why and you see, this matter has ultimately ended up in court. There is a court proceeding. There was a petition that is in court. So a number of things are now being handled in court. I may not be able to, go into any particular details.
Yes, sir.
But what I can say, without any fear of contradiction, number one, is that the commission, when it is organizing elections, it does not organize elections for violence. It does not even consider that there should be violence.
Yes.
Because elections are a civil mechanism for electing leaders. It's not a battleground and a war and a war zone where you should see people carrying all manner of armory to elect a representative. And that is what the framers of the 1995 Constitution knew and were conscious of when they put those provisions in the Constitution. In fact, when you read the preamble of the 1995 Constitution, here, and I have a copy of it here, it says, "We the people of Uganda,
Yes.
recalling our history, which has been characterized by political and constitutional instability, recognizing our struggles against the forces of tyranny and oppression," and it goes on and it goes on and
It
it goes
tells
on.
you the sadness where we've come from.
And saying we should know. So going forward, we have to have a constitutional order where choosing leaders should be through the ballot, not the bullet. Where choosing leaders should be through civil means of the elections. Obviously, every society must have an ideal that it aspires to. Otherwise, if you aspire for what is low level, then you will find yourself in the valley. The constitutional provisions are an aspiration of the society and the country that we want to see, and we must always push ourselves towards that ideal. You asked why that I'm talking about the ideal. Yes, there should be no violence.
Okay.
And
Mr.
when it
Chungu.
happens,
Yes.
the laws of the land provided for should handle anybody that breaks the law. And nobody is above the law as far as the law is concerned, including the laws that govern elections. So, we said that the incidents that we saw, especially at the tail end, in those polling stations, were most unfortunate. But we should not forget that there were other parts of Kawempe North where there was no incident of violence. We had 193 polling stations. The violence happened in 14 polling stations. We should also consider those who had no incident and who voted peacefully and cast their ballots.
But everybody has a right to vote.
Correct.
That's the first thing.
Correct.
So even if it happened in 15, the 15 are still, we still have to account for them.
Yes.
But my question is, you've mentioned that you had a meeting with some of the
Security,
security.
yes.
I was at a meeting at the pre-poll event of that particular campaign. We were together,
Correct.
Mr. Mucunguzi.
Yes.
And your boss, Justice Biabakama,
Yes.
was very pertinent about this issue.
Absolutely.
That security, please, we should have a peaceful election.
Yes.
He talked to these people.
Yes.
So who's running this election? Because if you can have a series of meetings, and I even know that after that event, that first day, you had another meeting with the security operatives.
Yes.
So who's running the show? If you can tell people not to do something and they continue to do it.
The commission has always been very, very consistent in saying that a free and fair, credible, peaceful, transparent process is a responsibility of all the actors that are involved in the electoral process. And we always say that the Electoral Commission is like a referee of a political game. And if we are to use the analogy of a referee, if you have two teams playing football, and you have the rules, and all of you agree that these are the rules. If you cross here, it's a penalty. If you go here, it is a throw-in. And then you have the players, 12 of them on each side, Are they 12 or 11? I think they're 11. They're 11. You have the players on the field, you have the coaches, you have the managers, you have the spectators, and then you have players who say, for us, if we miss the ball, we will not miss the leg. The referee can give out yellow cards and then move on the red cards. And he may perhaps not even have a player remaining on the pitch because they have chosen not to follow the rules. If you have team captains that tell their people not to obey the rules, you will not have a clean game. If you have spectators who are abusing the players on the pitch, some players can choose to leave the pitch.
But don't you have the ability to say, let's give this player a red card? Why I tell you this is because you are at the helm of power.
Yes.
You are the one who transfers power.
Absolutely.
And even in the past, you, because of your actions, not you as a person, but the electoral commission, it culminated into a war. That many Ugandans died from. So do you see the magnitude of the power that you have?
No, the commission is very much aware of the responsibility placed on it by the constitution. But it says that to ensure what is provided for in the constitution, a free and fair election, which that is peaceful and credible, every stakeholder must play by the rules. Now, if voters decide to start fighting and beating each other, are you saying now, will you blame that on the commission? If, for instance, players or voters, at the instigation of their candidates and their political parties, choose to refuse to obey the rules, what needs to happen is that the institution that must ensure and enforce law and order must come in to ensure that all those that have been implicated in actions that are contrary to the law are brought to court. Because the only mechanism of resolving any issue that comes out, whether it is violence, whether it is fighting, whether it is ballot stuffing, whether it is voter bribery, the recourse in the law is the courts of law. We're a constitutional country. We are a law-abiding country. The criteria and the foundations of a free, fair, credible electoral process, remember, it's not just an event. The entire process is that we must be following and obeying the laws of the land that are there and the guidelines that are provided by the Electoral Commission. Then there is an institution that is provided for in the law to ensure compliance with the law. The police, which also works with other agencies as and when it determines by itself that we need support to ensure that at the end of the day, we have a peaceful conduct of elections. Where that does not happen, where the actors, because look, there are many activities that the Electoral Commission undertakes, and the actors, some of the actors are not there, and there is peace. Like now, we've been having the display of the National Voters Register, and you will not hear anybody being beaten anywhere. You heard when we were updating the Voters Register, there was no violence, and the Commission is in charge. Then when we say actors come, so if you are doing a mathematical equation, you need to ask yourself, why is it that we see violence when actors, other than those where the commission is completely in charge of everything? Why is it that when we are updating the register, there is no problem? When we are displaying the register, there is no problem. When we are doing demarcation, there is no problem. When we are organizing polling stations, then when we say nominations, where now you, me, the media, the candidates,
security come.
Now you must say that the problem is not the commission, because the commission is a constant in this.
That's what I'm also seeing, because so even when you look at the history of this country, and you've covered the elections as a journalist, you are first a journalist before here. You have seen the evolution of Uganda's elections. So the violence has been there. So I'm not going to put you on the spot as an individual, but as Mucunguzi, with your senior knowledge and experience in this country, what do we then do?
No, but you see, there are a number of factors that are attributed, that can be easily attributable to the state of affairs of electoral processes. The electoral process today is highly commercialized. The stakes are so high to the extent that people, as you know, will sell everything they have worked for in order to contest for member of parliament, even councillor, of your LCF chairman, and of course even president, the money that is invested in the process is extremely obscene in some cases.
Yeah.
And people sell everything to go in elections. So because they have invested so much in their mind, so they expect one result, a win. But we know that when you are subject to a self-electoral electoral process, you must either win or lose. And that when the elections are taking place, you need to have two speeches. A concession speech saying that I congratulate my friend for winning, or I thank the people for voting me to victory. But in most cases, our people go in elections with a do or die mentality without expecting anything less than a victory. And that is a mindset characteristic of a troubled system and a troubled society. Those are some of the things that need to be addressed. Violence sometimes is a function of investments, and huge investments mentally, financially, and emotionally.
It comes from a place where someone is losing or something.
Yes. So I think we need to go back to the basic principles of decent behavior, and of respect, and of appreciating what an election is. That election by its nature will produce winners and losers. But there are people who are hell-bent on saying I must win at all costs, by hook or crook, meaning even if it means breaking the law, I'll break the law in order to win. And that's where we have a problem. What is the solution? Some of the solutions, one requires civic education. Our people.
That's where I was going to even come, because this is your job to teach people how to vote. Let me just call it that. Where are you? We're not seeing you.
No, actually, we are doing a lot. But let me tell you that what we see in the conduct of people during electoral processes is a bigger malaise that is afflicting the fabric of our society. And this is the example. Just a few months ago, I was invited as a chief guest at a swearing in of prefects at a primary school here in Bugolobi. Prefects in primary school. So I asked, how did you win? And the prefects were telling me that they had to give sweets, they had to give pens, they had to give cakes, they had to buy ice cream. And who was giving the money to these children?
I think the parents.
The parents. And these are young children, being nurtured to become 18 and become voters and join our voters register.
They are being corrupt already.
So we have a lot of work to do. There is work that certainly the Electoral Commission must do, and we are doing it.
But you're not seeing, before you have money, you have a budget for that.
No.
There's a budget that has been put there by the government for you to do that. But where are you?
No, where are we? I think it is very interesting that, but I know, as well as you know that I know, that you know that the Commission conducts voter education sessions in schools, for instance, in schools, in secondary schools, in universities, on the ground education. We work with communities. The Commission has staff across the country. Some of it does not end up on the headlines because education by its nature is continuous, and our voter education is continuous. So there is education at different levels. Voter education at community mobilization level, working with the communities in schools, youth groups, markets, churches, faith groups, mosques. Our staff go there and speak about a number of electoral-related issues. But we also have provisions to do work using the media, and we continue to work with media platforms. I don't know whether we have, through adverts, through interviews like this one, through talk shows. We also have a lot of effort being put in our digital platforms. The Commission has revamped and boosted its digital presence. Various digital products that we produce, graphics, designs, in respect of the fact that we know that a huge percentage of our population is young, below 30, below 35 years, who get the information on their phones, not in the newspapers. So there is work that is being done. Is it enough? Certainly not. Must more work be done? Yes, we must. But we are doing work, and voter and civic education requires, again, the participation and cooperation of all stakeholders. Political parties must undertake voter and civic education because they're the greatest beneficiaries of the electoral processes. Civil society groups have a role to play in voter education. Media have a role to play in voter education. if we just were to just depend on the budget of 320 million shillings that is provided for voter education to the Electoral Commission per year to reach the entire country, then certainly we would be resigning ourselves. But we use every available opportunity, using every resource that we have to ensure that the messages get out. But we need to do more, and certainly we must do more.
Okay. Another solution, we are talking about solutions.
So that's number one. The second one is we need laws. Laws that guide, for instance, campaign financing. We have no law of that nature. But you know who makes the laws? It's Parliament. There are many reforms that perhaps would be needed to make our electoral processes more efficient, but the representatives of the people in Parliament are the ones responsible for making the laws. The job of the Electoral Commission is to ensure that it complies with the laws as they are at that particular time. And as we stand today, we have that monster of commercialization. We don't have a campaign finance law. There were discussions that this might be in the offing. When it comes, we hope it will help matters. It may not help the current electoral roadmap, but you see, we're building for the future. We're not just building for 2026. Uganda, we found it. Uganda is going to be there after 2026, even after 2031. Even after that, we will come, we'll leave it, and the country will remain.
Exactly.
Yes.
You're still watching Face the Nation. My name is Edgar Matthew Karuhanga. I am with Mr. Julius Mucunguzi, the head of PR and spokesperson of the Ugandan Electoral Commission. We're looking at the electoral roadmap for this particular electoral cycle, 2025-2026. Let's first get back to the politics. We have a new political party, PFF, but it took rather a long time for it to be gazetted. You want to explain why?
Now, first of all, for clarity, as we speak today, on the 22nd of May, PFF is still gazetted. It's not a political party. Oh. And I want to explain to the people what gazetting means. So, registration of political parties in Uganda is guided by the law. And you see, I always work with this document, this book here, the Compendium of Electoral Laws, because everything the Electoral Commission does is according to the law. So, the Political Parties and Organizations Act of 2005 outlines the process of registration of political parties in Uganda. And it says, at Section 3, Article 3, Section 3 of that Act says that the political party organization may, in accordance with this Act, be founded in Uganda to further any purpose for which is not contrary to the laws of Uganda. And that every citizen of Uganda has a right to form or join a political party of his choice. And then it outlines the process. That process is quite detailed. But in summary, it says that if you want to register a political party, you have to submit an application to the Electoral Commission. And it talks about what must be comprised or comprising that application. Number one, it says that you must submit 2 copies of the constitution of that political party or organization, duly signed by the authorized officers. Number 2, a list of full names and addresses of at least 50 members of the political party or organization from at least 2/3 of all districts of Uganda, each of the traditional regions of Uganda. So 2/3, 50 people, registered voters, verifiable, from 2/3 of the district of Uganda. That's about 97 districts. And third, a full description of the identity, symbols, slogans that the party wishes to use. And finally, must pay a registration fee. That is what constitutes a complete application. What the promoters of PFF have been doing, they have been stuck for a long time on number 2 of collecting those signatures. Because the law also says that the Electoral Commission is empowered to undertake inquiries and verification of anything that you submit. So there was a to and fro for several months on the signatures. When the signatures were concluded, that is when we had a complete application. It is like if you go to apply for a visa at an embassy, and you reach there, they say, oh, you have brought your application, but you need to bring 2 passport photos of this nature. And then you go and you bring passport photos, they say, no, these are not meeting the specifications required by this country. And then you go back and then you take 2 weeks without bringing those requirements. When you finally bring them, you will not start counting the day of your application when you logged it in, and yet it was not received. It will be put on the file and said pending.
Are you saying that these because I was hearing the spokesperson of
Yes.
PFF?
Yes.
Are you saying he was outrightly lying? Because
No,
he was in the space to even reach a point of stating
Yes.
that I'm going to call the members of PFF to call themselves to the Electoral Commission.
No,
and
when
talk to these guys.
when the promoters were aware, of the law and what was required of them. I cannot speak to what they were telling the public, but what I'm telling the public is what is in the law. And the commission follows only one thing. There is only one deadline the commission follows. It's the law. So if the application, and until it was gazetted, it was not a complete application. So you could as well say that there were still preliminary processes of putting together an application, passport photos, as if you were to use the analogy of applying for a visa, or if you go to apply for a passport and they tell you to bring evidence of ABCD. You won't say that I came here, but I didn't have a full application. Now you start counting from the first time when you came submitting your intention.
Okay.
But now they have been gazetted. Gazetting means in the law that the Electoral Commission, section 7, clause 4, the Electoral Commission shall cause a notice of the application to be published in the Gazette within 30 days after receiving it, inviting objections from any person concerning the name, the objectives, the constitution, and any other matter. So now we are waiting for 14 days from the day that the what was gazetted is not the political party. Uganda, what was gazetted is the application, not the political party. When the 14 days elapse and there is no objection from any member of the public, then the next step will be to grant them a certificate. But as we speak today, we have an application which has been gazetted, not a political party.
So what do you mean by gazetting? Is like saying this symbol won't be taken by another applicant or political party or something like that? So,
what I mean is, you see, like for the Christians who go to church, before you wed in the church, they will announce. They will say, first time of announcing, so and so intended to get married to so and so. If anybody has an objection, please bring it. Then the second time. But you cannot say that because there has been no objection on the first announcement, now you are married.
Okay.
No.
Thank you.
No, you cannot.
Thank you. Because of time, I want us to first stop there. You're still watching Face the Nation. Some people have a feeling that your boss is holding two officers. He is a judge, but he's also the Electoral Commission boss. How true is this? And does this affect the way he's running the Electoral Commission?
I'm not. This is the first time I'm hearing anything of that nature.
That he did not resign as a judge.
I'm not aware of that, and I have no evidence to that effect. What I know is that the chairperson of the Electoral Commission was duly appointed according to provisions of Article 60 of the Constitution that outlines how the commission will be established, how the chairperson and the deputy and the commissioners will be appointed by the president and approved by Parliament. I did not hear anybody during the vetting of Parliament anybody bringing such a claim, unless if you are saying that the members of Parliament who passed and the president and the member of Parliament who passed the appointments were not aware of this fact or were blind to this fact. So I have no comment to that effect. I know that the chairperson is doing his work and leading the commission to deliver free, fair, transparent, credible elections in this country. Okay.
For you won't comment, but it's called Justice Simon Biabak.
And they say, actually, I think one of the requirements of a chairperson of the commission, they say a judge of somebody of level of a judge of court of appeal or something.
Yeah, but Andy, one would say it's true. That is very true. But he's getting the salary as a judge, but he was also getting a salary as electoral commission.
You may wish to bring that evidence to court.
Okay.
Because they say if anybody has any matter on anybody in public office, there is one recourse. It is the court. It's not the streets of going on the streets in Karere and in Owino and you bring the evidence and then the courts will determine. But this is the first time I'm hearing anything. I think it's a joke. I'm hoping it's just a joke.
Let's leave it as a joke. But for watching, thank you so much. let's talk about voter turnout. I wanted to look at a specimen of the Kawempe North. More than 80% did not come to vote.
Terrible.
How then do we do that? Because if we are to look at it as a precursor to the elections, it looks bad. How do we as the Electoral Commission bring that and solve that particular issue?
No, the issue of low voter turnout is actually a global phenomenon. In most countries across the world, people have generally not been turning up to vote. But we speak for the Electoral Commission of Uganda and for the people of Uganda.
Yeah.
The level of turnout for elections has been abysmally unimpressive. And this should concern everybody. It should concern the Electoral Commission as it does. It should concern the political actors. It should concern the voters. It should concern civil society. It should concern the media. Because it's basically saying that people are not taking interest in electing and choosing their leaders.
One would say maybe they are voting in that way. They are not. They are shunning the electoral process. But that's a voice. They are making a statement.
But you see, the problem is that voice has no locus, because what is recognized, even if there is, you see, you know that if there is no, if one person shows up nominated as a candidate for a position and there is no competitor, that person is declared.
Yes.
So, from the Electoral Commission point of view, number one is that the country invests so much money to organize elections. The country invests so much money to register voters. The country invests so much money to put together voters register. The country invests so much money to print ballot papers, to set up all the machinery. We spend so much money. The other day there were issues, saying these elections are very expensive. Yes, they are. When all of this investment has been made, the expectation is that the people will actually show up and make good use of their money. Remember, in Uganda, elections in this country are funded 100% by the government. But who is government? It is the taxpayer. You, me, and everybody who pays 30% payee, or who pays taxes when you buy anything in the supermarket or in any market. So the loss, when we don't show up to vote, is actually our loss. Even that one who says I'm voting by not turning up, you're actually surrendering your money.
I hear them complaining about the MPs they have.
Yes.
Yes. These people are not good, but you're the people who vote them. So if you don't vote, you're voting them.
And do you blame that on the commission? No, not at all. We are just midwives of this process. So when we see people not turning up, and this has concerned the chairperson of the commission, and the commission has been scratching itself. What more do we need to do? People don't turn up because they don't know. Actually, they turn up. They don't turn up deliberately. And we need to interrogate and address those grievances. I think more study, more analysis of why people don't show up to vote, even when they know. So it cannot be a question of voter education. That they know, but they choose not to come. But also remember, in Uganda, voting is not compulsory. It's optional. It's a right. You can exercise it, you may choose not to exercise it. Should there be a law that compels every citizen to vote? I don't know. That may be a discussion for another occasion. But a failure to show up to vote means a loss of taxpayers' money that has been invested in preparation for this election. I will just give you one example. When the Electoral Commission is setting up the number of polling stations across the country, it goes by the number of voters that have been registered. We have a threshold of how many voters should be at a particular polling station. And in splitting it, we say, and at each polling station, there are electoral officials, and they are paid during the period of preparation for organizing elections. Now, if you don't show up, that money goes to waste. We print ballot papers on the basis of the number of voters registered. And ballot papers cannot be reused. You can't say, those which were not used in 2021, let us bring them now for use now. It doesn't happen that way. So, not showing up actually is a cost to the country and to our democracy. Yesterday, I posted something on my Twitter account, X account, and I said, it was saying, I love my country, I will vote. And people are saying, we are not showing up, we won't show up, we won't show up, we won't show up. They know, but they're saying they're not showing up. And I've been telling them, please, not showing up should not be an option because it costs you. We are hoping that people, and we are calling on people to walk the talk after registration, to show up and choose their leader at all levels. We're talking about at all levels, from LC1, from the person who, sorts out the issues at the local level, to members of parliament, to LC5 person, chairpersons, the president, and all the leaders in between. They all are significant and important. We tell the people not to give up on voting because it is the only mechanism of choosing leaders acceptable under the law.
Thank you. This may not be directly your business, but I want to hear your take on the Political Parties and Organizations Amendment Act now that we have in Parliament. What do you think about it? Just for the benefit of our viewers, this is a new law that is going to be governing how funding is accessed by these political parties. It's also mandating them to dialogue under the Inter-Party Organizations and Dialogue iPod. So generally, it has struck some controversy among political parties. I want to hear from Mr. Mucunguzi what he thinks about this new law as we conclude.
Obviously, the Commission simply implements laws that have been passed by Parliament and all other organs that pass laws in this country.
Yes.
The Commission always hopes and believes that reforms in the law are meant to improve and ensure efficiency in our political culture, in our political system, in our democratic endeavors.
Exactly.
The Political Parties and Organizations Act of 2005 is a very important piece of legislation that was put in place after Uganda returned to multi-party political dispensation in 2005.
Exactly.
And to ensure that political parties are organized, that law was put in place. It is the same law that outlines the process for registration of political parties.
Yes.
It's the same one that I was referring to.
Exactly.
This law also has provisions for the code of conduct of political parties and organizations. A long list of the do's and don'ts and how political parties should organize themselves.
Yes, sir.
It establishes the National Consultative Forum. It is also, the national is in the Constitution.
Exactly.
All registered political parties in Uganda are members of the National Consultative Forum.
Yes.
A forum where all differences and all issues related to politics and governance and elections are discussed.
Yes, sir.
I've not studied the full details of the amendments. But any amendment that is meant to improve the way business is done in the political culture of our country, any amendment that ensures greater cooperation, that promotes harmony, that promotes unity, that promotes unity and diversity, that encourages dialogue, really, I do not know why anybody would say, for me, I don't like unity, I don't like to dialogue, I don't want to discuss, I don't want to be part.
But do you have to first remove my money in order for me to talk?
No. The question of the money is another matter altogether.
Those are main two things.
But one of the things that Ugandans need to know is that all political parties who have representation in Parliament, all of them, without exception, receive money from government.
Yes.
And the Electoral Commission is a conduit of that money. The money comes to the Electoral Commission. The Electoral Commission disperses it according to numerical strengths that the political parties have agreed themselves.
Exactly.
Government finances political parties that are represented in Parliament. Now, if you're receiving taxpayers' money, you have a duty. There are certain expectations of you. You can't just take it and just walk away. So, we are hoping that that this amendment that now is going to, when it is passed into law, that it will hopefully cure some of the ills that we've been seeing in our political culture. But for the Commission, the only job that we will do will be to implement those provisions that would have been passed and anchored into our law books.
Okay, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to come here. It has been a conducive environment, and I've also learned something from you as an individual. And I believe my viewer has also taken away something. But my main takeaway is really we need to vote. This thing of boycotting, at the end of the day, it does not change a thing in the grand scheme of things, because the ones who will vote, they will go with their day. Yes. So that's my personal.
If you don't show up to vote, those who show up will determine for you who will be your leader for the next 5 years, and at all levels.
Your parting shot, sir.
My parting shot is that one, Ugandans, the Commission calls upon all Ugandans to participate fully in all processes and all stages of the electoral roadmap. We thank Ugandans who have shown up at all the stages that have been concluded on the roadmap. Those who showed up during the update of the National Voters Register, those who have showed up during the display of the National Voters Register, those who are showing up in the exercise that is going on now of the tribunals who are reviewing and verifying the complaints that have arisen out of the display. And now we are going into very, very critical phase of the special interest group elections for the youth, for the older persons, and for persons with disabilities. The rest of the roadmap is outlined. We'll have nominations, and then we'll have campaigns.
Okay.
Let us maintain peace. Let us keep peace. Because peace is the prerequisite for stability and for the development of the country. We have one country called Uganda. Elections come and go. Leaders come and go. This country called Uganda, we found it. We are in it today. We will leave it. Let us leave it better by participating in the democratic processes of the country so that together we can have a free, fair, credible elections that produces leaders that the people have chosen through their free will and that enables the country to continue to be united, to be progressive, and to give us pride as Ugandans in the Pearl of Africa.
Okay. Thank you so much. And our viewer, thank you so much for tuning in. I have been with Mr. Mucunguzi Julius, the spokesperson and head of public relations at the Electoral Commission in Uganda. We've had an insightful conversation. Please do continue with this conversation on our social media platforms. That is at Digitalk TV, but also at the Alternative Uganda on Facebook, X, and YouTube. My name is Edgar Matthew Karuhanga. I'll see you again in the next episode every Friday. We start at 5 p.m. We're always here having candid conversations with Uganda. We have these conversations to make Uganda a better place. And as Mr. Mucunguzi said, we found Uganda here. We're going to leave it, but how better have you left it for the next generation? From the entire team, God bless you and good evening, Uganda.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.